Hello, welcome. This is our Summer Wellbeing series. I'm Dr. Sarah Golding and I'm with Dr. Amrita Sen Mukherjee. We're both NHS GPs and coaches with an interest particularly in wellbeing. Our previous one was all about fatigue and some tips around that, and today we're moving on to overwhelm.
So thanks, Sarah, for the introduction. It's really great to be back again talking to you. So essentially what we were going to talk about today is overwhelm and how sometimes it can really come up to us and strike us without even us noticing it and realising. And we can often find ourselves in this sense of overwhelm, this cycle where we feel completely bombarded with so much to do, so many tasks, so many responsibilities, and a complete lack of energy, not knowing how to undertake all of those different responsibilities that we have, and we don't even know how we've got into the situation. And quite a lot of the people that I coach find also that actually what's happening is that they tell themselves, I'm not going to get into this state again, I'm not going to do this to myself, but they find themselves repeating the same pattern. So what Sarah and I wanted to talk about today was how can we break this cycle, how can we acknowledge it, and how can we figure out some effective strategies to support ourselves in not getting ourselves into this situation.
Absolutely, and I think lots of us can recognize that, and it's sort of that whole straw that breaks the camel's back. You can be functioning, you feel like you're functioning, maybe you feel like you're getting lots of things done, and I think there's this sort of slight syndrome of feeling like you have to do everything, be everything to everybody, and the more you build up, the less capacity you have, and then it can just be that one final thing that suddenly makes you feel, oh, it's too much, or a situation that's suddenly changed and you're not okay. And overwhelm can feel like all sorts of stuff. It can be that you're exhausted, it can be that you're more emotional, tired, snappy, brittle, or that you're not sleeping because your brain is just whirring with all this stuff that's going on and these sense of obligations. And it's really quite uncomfortable feeling. You feel that you just don't have any more space or capacity. And I think what Amy and I want to talk about is giving yourself permission to recognize either that you're in the red zone, you're getting close to it, or that you're actually in it. And then when you're in it, what to do next.
Absolutely. So how do we feel when we're in it? I suppose that's the first thing that we can acknowledge. Often people feel ratty. Often people feel quite irritable. They feel that, as Sarah said, there's a lack of headspace. They can't quite compute things as efficiently as they might have done before. Their thinking, their cognition becomes quite slow. They might not be able to multitask as well as they were before. They might not be able to prioritize tasks as well as they might have done before. And just everything seems a little bit like you're walking through treacle. Everything seems a little bit harder, a little bit tougher, and you don't have energy, any time to do the things that you really want to do. So it's really about prioritizing the things that are important in life, but also ensuring that you're getting all the needful nourishment that you need in order to support your well-being as well. So how can we do that? What can we do to acknowledge and to recognize these feelings and emotions?
Absolutely. And I think our number one message probably over the series is that you are worth paying attention to, that, self-care isn't selfish. This whole message about you have to fit your oxygen mask first before you can be helpful to other people. And there's something about really prioritizing your own well-being, because then you will actually be more efficient. And it's also having a look at, what do you want to give your energy to? You might find that when you actually look at where is your energy and your brain space being spent, that actually it's in areas that aren't a priority to your life. And I think some of the things I talk about with my coaching and mentoring clients is, okay, but what are your life values? And is that actually how you're living your life? Where are you, excuse me, spending all of your valuable and precious emotion and energy? And actually, how does that hold up to where you would like to be, the things that are really important to you? And I think that can be a really useful exercise for people to compare those two, present and wanted, and look at perhaps what are the things that you can step away from, or responsibilities you can give away, or maybe standards that you're holding yourself to that actually aren't healthy.
Absolutely, Sarah. And another thing I wanted to add to that was also, what's bringing you joy in your life? Are you taking on things that are not necessarily bringing you joy, are causing you stress, and actually might be making you feel quite uncomfortable? Are things a burden to you? And yes, some things might you might have to undertake because of duty, because of responsibility, and not everything in life can be perfect and full of roses. But it's about the balance. It's about, the things that you are saying yes to, having the balance of being appropriate and being comfortable, and making sure that you're not getting into this zone of discomfort because of things that you don't want to be doing. And it's because actually, if we have a whole list of things that we don't want to be doing, but we have to do them because of responsibility, that can really lead us into this sense of burnout and sense of overwhelm, because actually there's no meaning in it. There's no purpose in it for us, because it's not in alignment with our values or our principles. And that's hugely important with regards to what Sarah was saying. So I just wanted to echo that, that actually leading a life full of meaning and purpose in line with our values is so important for our well-being, and can actually stop us from getting into this sense of overwhelm, because you might have 100 jobs to do, but if they're all in alignment with your meaning and purpose, actually they don't feel like jobs, it feels like play. So that's also another way of looking at things.
Absolutely. And I think it's also going back to the real basics. Are you meeting your basic bodily, physical needs? And coming back to that, as we talked about in fatigue, are you getting the rest and recuperation, both in terms of sleep? Are you feeding yourself well? Are you getting enjoyable downtime where you're really exploring other sides of your nature? It doesn't have to all be work. And yeah, we can, as Amy said, really enjoy lots of stuff, but are you also really getting proper rest time as well, so that when you are going, you've got that energy to back you up? So I think it's also about what we're talking before, just having, I suppose, fine-tuning your ability to know where you're at, in your body, in your mind. Where are you at in your life? Are you where you want to be? But also, are you coping with it? Are you getting towards being frazzled? In which case, you need to just stop and just reevaluate and go, okay, what do I need to do now?
So Sarah, you've spoken a lot about values and meaning and purpose, and moving on to looking at your bodily functions, making sure that rest is prioritised. Is there anything else that you can suggest to people with regards to coping mechanisms before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think one of the things that certainly I always find helpful for me is, certainly when you've got that sense of overwhelm, it's that busy brain thing. And I think certainly I've found it very helpful just to get everything else onto a piece of paper. What are all of the lists? What are the things that you're really worrying about? Write everything down, and then go through it, step away from it once it's out, and then go back to it and assign a priority to things. You might come back to it and go, why was that even in my head? Cross it off. And then you can go, what are the things that are important and urgent? What are the things that can wait? What are the things that I can delegate? Or actually, I don't need to do at all. And you might need somebody else to be with you to help you look at that list and go, well, that doesn't need to be done, and slightly challenge you. And sometimes that's where coaching can be helpful, or a friend or family member. But certainly that's a tool that I find helpful. And I think it's something that you can redo regularly as a way of externalizing all of these busy thoughts.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. So essentially, looking at the problems, looking at the feelings that you're having, and trying to prioritize them, trying to delegate them, and essentially looking at yourself in the equation, as opposed to taking yourself out of it and just feeling the emotions of overwhelm, but trying to take control of them, essentially.
That's right. And that's a very perfect segue. It sounds very professional, because that's what we're going to be talking about next time, isn't it? We're going to be talking about control, and perhaps we'll expand a little bit more about boundaries as well, and where it's appropriate and what that means.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us, and we really look forward to seeing you next time when we talk about control.
Lovely.